Welcome back. One final point before we go tonight. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. You'd think it would be difficult to misinterpret those 14 words, yet the March for Our Lives served us a boatload of lies this weekend, didn't they? Not one sign condemning the shooter himself, but a lot of signs calling Dana Lash a murderer. See, this is why people like me can't get on board with a phony protest like the March for Our Lives. I want to do everything I can to keep kids in school safe, but the agenda of the March for Our Lives is not about school safety. It's about banning guns. If you don't believe me, just look at their website for yourself. It says civilians shouldn't be allowed to own AR-15s. Only the military, only police. So let me repeat. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is why we have a constitution, so a little twerp and a Nazi-looking armband throwing up a communist salute can't steal our rights. Dean versus Heller reaffirmed this right when the Supreme Court ruled that any firearm in common use is protected by the Constitution. AR-15s are, without a doubt, in common use. Over 1 million are sold every single year. See, here's the thing. The lies circulating at the March for Our Lives were absolutely astounding. The entire platform, the reason liberals are calling for gun control, is built on a faulty premise. And most of the people out protesting are just recycled hashtag resistance marchers who know nothing about firearms and are consumed with their hatred for Donald Trump. Again, if you don't believe me, take a look at some of their signs for yourself. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the lies they were telling and let's debunk them. Number one, the March for Our Lives claims the overwhelming majority of young people support gun control. This is false. According to a USA Today poll, only 47% of young people think gun control would keep them safe. 37% disagree. That's hardly an overwhelming majority. Number two, the March for Our Lives claims young people don't want more guns in schools. This is also false. 70% of young people, 7 out of 10, say schools should require an armed security guard on campus. That poll was taken after the Parkland shooting. Number three, the March for Our Lives claimed they were a nonpartisan protest. Give me a break. This is so false. The march was organized by Empower, the youth arm of the Women's March, whose organizers called for jihad against President Trump, threatened conservative women with female genital mutilation, and said Sharia law is good for women. Unless Democrats are trying to redefine nonpartisan, this march was about as partisan as they come. Number four, the March for Our Lives claims school shootings are on the rise, an epidemic, they said. This is false. In fact, multiple victim shootings are on the rise, according to James Allen Fox, a professor at Northeastern University, but multiple victim shootings are not on the rise in schools. The average is about 1 per year in schools, and remember, we have about 100,000 schools in our country. Compare this to the 1997-98 school year, where there were 4 mass shootings at schools in our country just that year. Number five, the March for Our Lives claims that more guns equal more crime. This is false. We have more guns now in our country than ever before, yet in the 1992-93 school year, 0.55 students per million were shot and killed. In the 2014-15 school year, 0.15 students per million were shot or killed. More guns do not equal more crime. Number six, the March for Our Lives claims the more guns, the higher the rate of homicide in our country. This is false. Since 1993, the number of privately owned firearms in our country has skyrocketed by 56%. Yet the gun homicide rate has declined by 49%. So that would be lie, 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 lie. That's 6 lies right there, and that doesn't even take into account the fact that none of these protesters said a single word about the government institutions that failed to keep the kids at Parkland safe, or the gun-free zones that invite mass shooters to commit their crimes, or the fact that AR-15s are only used in 2% of homicides in our nation. This is why I cannot support the March for Our Lives. It's not about saving lives. It's about gun control and banning guns, and it's based on lies. And that is my final point. You can reach me on Twitter at Liz_Wheeler. If you like the show, please send me an email at oann.com/contact. In the meantime, catch us here tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, and until then, have a good night.